Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hong Kong Horror. I'm your narrator, Simon. Tonight we're heading over to Thailand for a very creepy incident that was reported by a delivery driver. The story made its waves in Southeast Asia. So, there are a few different versions of this story floating around the web, so you might have heard a version of this before. As usual, at the end of the episode, let's break it down together to figure out what happened from a Chinese cultural perspective. So, let's turn down the lights, get comfy, and let's dive right into this one. Being a delivery driver in Thailand is a test of patience that few people truly understand. It isn't just about moving a box from point A to point B. It's a daily war against the suffocating humidity, the endless labyrinth of narrow roads, and the chaotic swarm of motorbikes that weave through traffic like schools of metal fish. For RT, this was his daily life. Every day was a blur of scanning barcodes, climbing stairs in sweat-drenched uniform, and dodging stray dogs in residential alleys. It was monotonous work. It looked dull and repetitive to anyone watching from the outside. But in the middle of that repetitive work, beneath the neon glow of the 7-Eleven signs and the heavy tropical air, every now and then he would run into something that sends chills down the spine. On that particular Tuesday, the workload was particularly brutal. It was the height of shopping season, and the back of Artit's truck was stacked high with cardboard boxes. He drove without break, skipping lunch, fueling himself only on sugary energy drinks and the cold air blasting from the truck's air conditioner. He was so busy all the way up until past 8 in the evening. The sky had long since turned a bruise to purple, and the street lights were buzzing overhead. Artit handed over what he thought was the last package to a customer in a condo on the edge of the city. As the elevator descended, he rolled his shoulders, feeling the joints pop. He was exhausted. All he wanted was a bowl of boat noodles and a long cold shower. He walked out to the truck, the humid night air instantly sticking his shirt to his back. He opened the rear cargo door to do a final sweep, ready to head back to the depot, but his heart sank. Tucked away in the dark corner behind the wheel well, there was one small brown package left. Artit cursed under his breath. How did I miss this? He picked it up. It felt strangely cold to the touch. He squinted at the label under the dim cargo light. The address wasn't familiar. It wasn't anywhere near his current route. It was for a district way out in the boonies, past the ring road, where the concrete jungle of Bangkok dissolved into rice paddies and forgotten canals. Did I pick up the wrong package? He muttered. He checked the time on his phone. 8:45 p.m. It was already pitch black outside. Now if you stroll from here to that remote address, then all the way back to the depot to log out, and then home, he wouldn't be sleeping until well past midnight. Every fiber of his body screamed at him to just go home. He could just mark it as undeliverable or customer unavailable. He tried to convince himself with all kinds of excuses. The traffic will be bad. The customer probably isn't even awake. I can just do it first thing tomorrow morning. But then the anxiety hit. If he didn't scan it out today, his supervisor would see the time stamp. He would get docked to pay, or worse, get a warning. Even if he didn't send it today, he'd have to drive all the way out there tomorrow anyway. Forget it, he thought, slamming the cargo door shut. I'll call the customer first. If they don't pick up, I have a valid excuse to go home. He climbed into the driver's seat and dialed the number printed on the label. The phone rang once, twice, click. A woman answered. Her voice was incredibly clear. It had a flat, hollow quality to it, like she was speaking from inside an empty room. Hello, Artit said, putting on his most polite customer service voice. I'm calling from the delivery service. Is this Kun Malai? Yes, the voice replied. Kumalai, I have a package for you. I apologize, but I'm currently quite far from your location. The traffic is heavy, and if I drive over now, it might be very late by the time I arrive. Would it be all right if I delivered it tomorrow morning instead? There was a silence on the other end, a long, heavy silence that made RT check her screen to see if the call had dropped. Then she spoke. "Just bring it today. I will be home tonight." She interrupted, her tone devoid of any emotion. "I will wait for you." The line went dead. Arted stared at the phone. A shiver crawled up his arms, which he blamed on the air conditioning. "Well, looks like I have no choice," he grumbled. He mounted his phone on the dashboard, punched the coordinates into the GPS, and pulled out into traffic. Since he did not know the area at all, he was entirely dependent on the navigation app. For the first 20 minutes, it was normal driving. He navigated the highway, watching the high-rise condos and shopping malls drift past. But as he took the exit ramp toward the outskirts, the scenery began to change rapidly. The city lights faded behind him. The 7-Elevens and gas stations became few and far between. Soon he was driving on the 2-lane asphalt road flanked by tall, swaying grass and dark water canals. 30 minutes in, something felt off. In front of him, it was pitch black. There were no other cars, no motorbikes, just a solitary beam of his headlights cutting through the darkness. The road surface came rougher, pitted with potholes that made the empty delivery truck rattle violently. Her teeth looked out the window. The street lights here were different. These weren't the bright white LED lights in the city. They were old sodium lamps, casting a sickly dim, reddish-orange glow that made the vegetation on the side of the road look like bruised flesh. A fear began to settle in his stomach. It was a primal feeling, the kind you get when you're being watched. You double-checked. The blue line stretched forward into nothingness. "Keep going for 2 km, the robotic voice said. So, he continued. After a while, the GPS instructed him to turn left. He slowed down. There was a crossroads marked by a very old wooden spirit house. It looked abandoned, tilted to the side with dry, dead flower garlands hanging from it. Next to it was a weathered signboard, covered in vines. He couldn't read the writing as it was extremely weathered. He turned the steering wheel, guiding the truck onto a smaller road. This road was incredibly narrow, barely wide in the first truck. Massive banyan trees lined both sides. The aerial roots hanging down like tangled hair brushing against the roof of the truck with scratching sounds. The reddish street lights were even dimmer hair. The shadows of the tree branches cast long, distorted shapes across the road's surface that looked like crawling hands. After driving through this tunnel of trees for what felt like an eternity, the trees suddenly cleared. Arted squinted. Finally, he saw what looked like a little town or village of some sorts. It was strange. It looked like an old community from 40 or 50 years ago. On both sides of the road there were rows of traditional wooden houses raised on stilts and a few low-rise concrete apartment blocks that looked stained with black mold and age. "This place is so remote," Artith whispered to himself. "I didn't even know people still live this far out." The thing that bothered him the most was the silence. Usually in a Thai neighborhood at night you hear things. You hear the sound of TVs blaring soap operas, dogs barking, crickets chirping, or people laughing over drinks. Here, there was nothing. Not a single house had a light on. No TVs, no dogs, just dead, heavy silence. Maybe it's just late, he reasoned. Countryside people go to bed early. He drove slowly, his headlights sweeping over closed wooden shutters and overgrown yards. The GPS pinged. "You have arrived." He stopped the truck in front of an old 2-story apartment building. It was gray concrete shrieked with water damage. The whole building was dark. Art took a deep breath, grabbed his flashlight and the package and stepped out. The heat hit him instantly, thick and smelling of a wet earth and rotting flowers. He walked up the external staircase to the second floor, his footsteps echoing loudly on the concrete. He found a door marked with the number on the package. He rang the doorbell. It let out a harsh mechanical buzz that seemed to vibrate through the entire silent building. He waited. No sound from the inside. He was about to ring again when the lock clicked. The door creaked open slowly. A woman stepped out. Her teeth blinked. She was stunningly beautiful. She wore a traditional sarong and a simple blouse, her hair long and black cascading down her back like spilled ink. Her skin was incredibly pale, almost glowing under the beam of his flashlight. "Hi, Mom," Artit said. "Are you Kunalai? This is your package." She didn't speak. She just stared at him with dark, unblinking eyes. She reached out a hand to take the box. Her fingers brushed against his and her teeth flinched. Her skin was freezing cold like ice. She took the package and stamped the receipt he offered her. She moved with a smooth, fluid grace that seemed unnatural. She turned around, getting ready to go back inside. Artita let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He turned away, ready to bolt back to the truck. "Driver," the woman said behind him. Artith stopped. He froze. "When you drive back out," the woman said, her voice dropping an octave low and raspy. "No matter who you meet, do not respond to them." Her teeth's blood ran cold. He forced a nervous chuckle, turning back to look at her. She was standing in the doorway with her back to him. Her body was facing into the apartment, but her head had rotated a full 180 degrees. She was looking directly at him over her own spine. Her neck was twisted like a wrung towel, bone grinding on bone. Her face was smiling a wide, impossible smile. Artit's scalp went numb. Every hair on his body stood up. A scream trapped itself in his chest. He didn't think. He didn't breathe. He threw himself down the stairs, practically falling over his own feet. When he got to his truck, he frantically dug around his pockets, looking for his keys. When a man's voice came from behind him, "Young man, is everything all right? You look flustered." Relieved that someone else was around, her teeth turned around quickly, ready to explain the situation of what he saw. But what he saw made him even more terrified. Standing right behind him was what looked to be an old man holding the hand of his grandson standing there. But the terrifying part was that neither of them had a face. They looked human in every single way, except the face. There was just nothing. Artit screamed and finally found his keys. He scrambled back into the truck, slammed his door, and locked it. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped the keys. Come on, come on, come on." The old man and his grandson walked closer to Artit and stood right next to the driver's side window and just stood there, faceless, as if staring at him, if they had eyes. Artit continued screaming as he finally found his keys and jammed it into the ignition. The engine roared to life. He floored the accelerator, tires screeching on the loose gravel as he spun the truck around. He sped back toward the tree-lined road. He checked the rearview mirror. The building was now gone, swallowed by the dark. But as he entered the tunnel of the banyan trees, the scene changed. The road was no longer empty. Under the dim reddish light of the sodium lamps, he saw figures, hundreds of them. They were standing on the side of the road just at the edge of the tall grass. Elderly people in tattered clothes, young men with blood-soaked shirts, children holding hands. They were all swinging slightly like trees in a wind. But there was no wind. Some looked human while some, similar to the old man and his grandson, had no face. As the trucks sped past, their heads snapped toward him. Snap, 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 all of them watching him, staring at him as if he didn't belong there. Artit couldn't stop screaming as he gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. "Don't look, don't look, don't respond," he chanted to himself, remembering the woman's warning. A figure lunged from the darkness, a man with half a face missing, reaching for the door handle. Our teeth swerved, nearly putting his truck in a ditch. He saw the intersection ahead, the old spirit house where he first turned in. The main road was closed now. The traffic light at the crossroads was red. He didn't care, he just wanted out. He slammed the gas pedal to the floor. The truck engine screamed. He blew through the red light, turning right onto the main highway without stopping. Massive horn blasted right behind him. Bright headlights flooded his cab. A 10-wheeler truck swerved to avoid him, missing his rear bumper by inches. Our teeth didn't stop. He was hyperventilating, tears streaming down his face. He kept his foot heavy on the gas, Blue and red lights flashed in his mirrors. A siren wailed. A police cruiser pulled up alongside him, the officer gesturing angrily for him to pull over. Our teeth drifted to the shoulder. The adrenaline finally crashing. He put the truck in park and rested his forehead on a steering wheel, sobbing. A flashlight rapped on his window. Artit rolled it down. 2 officers were there. Officer Nup, a young rookie with a harsh face, shouted immediately, "Are you crazy? You ran a red light and almost caused a massive accident. Why were you running? Do you have drugs in there? Get out." Artit was shaking too, hard to unbuckle his seat belt. He couldn't speak. He just pointed back toward the dark road. The second officer, Sergeant Samchai, was older. He had a weathered face and wore several Buddhist amulets around his neck. He pushed the rookie aside and leaned in, shining a light on our teeth's face. "Hey," Sai said softly. "Calm down, you look like you've seen a ghost. Are you all right?" I stammered. "Let me see your license," Sai said. Artit handed it over, with trembling fingers. Sai looked at it, then at the delivery uniform. "You're working late. Still delivering, yes?" Art choked out. I just finished my last drop." The customer she was. "Where did you go?" Sai asked, his eyes narrowing. Our teeth pointed a shaky finger into the darkness behind the cruiser. "That small road back there, the one with the banyan trees." "I went there to deliver a package to a little village." The 2 officers looked at each other. Officer Nu confused. The sergeant, Samchai's face went pale. "The small road?" Samchai asked, his voice serious. "You mean that they're tracked by the old, spared house?" "Yes. There's a village inside. Old wooden houses, apartment buildings. I delivered to a woman named Kunmalai." Silence fell over the group. The crickets in the grass seemed to sing louder. Sergeant Samchai shook his head slowly. "Son, are you sure you didn't get it wrong? There aren't any houses in there." "Not anymore. I was just there." Artit cried, desperate to be believed. "I saw them. I saw the woman. I saw the people in the road." Officer Nob rolled his eyes. "He's high, Sergeant. He's hallucinating," but Samchai ignored the rookie. He motioned for our teeth to get out of the truck. "Come with me." They walked a few meters, back toward the intersection. Samchai raised the heavy flashlight and aimed it at the weathered signboard our teeth had seen earlier. The one weathered and covered in vines. The sergeant used a spaten to push the vines aside. "Read that," Sai said. Our teeth squinted. The paint was peeling, but the tight script was still legible. "City cemetery and crematorium grounds. Strictly no entry after sunset." Beneath the sign, an arrow pointed directly down the narrow road that our teeth had just driven out of. Her teeth felt the ground sway beneath him. But the apartments, the woman, the village was torn down 30 years ago, after an outbreak. Sai said quietly, "They turned the land into an extension of the graveyard. There are no houses there, son. Only graves." They took our teeth to the station to follow report. Officer Nup wanted to charge him with reckless driving and drug use. Grilled our teeth for an hour, convinced that he was a mule moving drugs through the cemetery, but our teeth sucked a story. It described the woman, the cold hand, the head turning. Officer Not threw his pen down in frustration. "This is a waste of time. He's crazy." Since they found no drugs in the truck, and Art passed the breathalyzer, they eventually had to let him go with a heavy traffic fine. As Artit was walking out of the station clutching his ticket, Sergeant Samchai was waiting for him by the door, smoking a cigarette. The old policeman blew a cloud of smoke into the humid night air. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object, a Buddhist amulet on a string. He pressed it into Artit's hand. "You're not the first driver to come running out of that road," Sai said, his voice low and grave, "and you won't be the last." He looked Artit dead in the eye. Kunmalai, that was the name of the first victim during the influenza outbreak. They say she died waiting for medicine that never arrived. Samchai patted her teeth on the shoulder. A heavy grounding weight. "Go home, son. Make merit at the temple tomorrow, and next time if the GPS tells you to turn down a dark road at night, just turn it off." So, Hong Kong art fans, What do you think happened here to Artit? Please, pause the video here and let us know your theory. Alright, so what do I think happened? Here from a Chinese cultural perspective, Artitude didn't just wander into a haunted village. He crossed into a yin realm, a place where the living aren't supposed to enter, especially at night. In Chinese and Southeast Asian ghost beliefs, certain places are entirely yin, especially abandoned villages, mass cremation grounds, roads lined with old banyan trees or land with no active human activity. Just to name a few, these places become ghost domains, territories where ghosts recreate fragments of their past life. What our teeth saw was not a real, physical world, but a ghost reconstruction of an old village. Ghosts often replay their memories on the anniversary of events or if their deaths were unjust. The fact that every house was dark but intact is a major yin realm sign. Banyan trees are loaded with spiritual meaning across Chinese, Thai, Malay, and broader Southeast Asian cultures. In stories like Artit's, the banyan tree isn't just scenery. It's a signal that he has crossed into a domain where ghosts gather. Banyan trees are considered extremely yin trees. Yamok in Chinese folk religion plants are categorized as either yin or yang. Yang plants are ones that are bright, fragrant, and soft, while yin plants are the ones that are usually dark, tangled, long-giving with large roots. Banyan trees fall strongly in the yin category. Why? It's because they're huge and ancient with roots that grow downward like hands or tendrils. They can survive for centuries and create permanent shade as their canopy blocks out the sunlight. A place with little sunlight gathers yin energy, and where yin energy accumulates, spirits gather. Hence the saying, under the banyan, ghosts appear easily. Banyans are known as ghost ladders. The hanging aerial roots of banyan resemble ropes or cords. In superstition, these are believed to act as bridges for wandering spirits as well as ladders for ghosts to move between the yin and the yang worlds. Chinese mediums often refuse to hold rituals under banyan because it's too easy for multiple spirits to gather there. This is why crossroads or cemeteries with banyan trees are considered extremely haunted. The logic is simple. Where do homeless humans seek shelter usually? Under bridges, abandoned buildings, shaded areas. And where do you think homeless spirits seek shelter? Under banyan trees, especially spirits of victims of accidents, spirits with no descendants, wandering spirits attached to roads, and ghosts with no ancestral tablet. Pretty much all homeless ghosts. If you pass under a banyan at night, you're walking through their home. Artit basically drove through a spirit gate, which is why the village looked physically real to him. So, what about the package that Artit found in the truck that led him to Malay? In Hong Kong and Southeast Asian ghost lore, when something arrives that wasn't ordered with no sender, addressed to someone who doesn't exist or is dead, it's often interpreted as a summoning. When you take the object, you accept the invitation. In Artit's case, he picked up the package, carried it with him, and even called the phone number. Each action deepened the connection. Calling the number was the final trigger. This is culturally huge. In Chinese ghost stories, when you call the number of someone deceased, the one who answers is rarely human. When her teeth called the number, Mai answered immediately. It should have been a red flag that her voice was hollow. She spoke in flat, emotionless tones, and seemed so insistent that he come that night. That insistence is important. Ghosts with angered regrets cannot wait. They relive the moment of their death repeatedly. So, the call sealed the medium. The package connected him to Malay. The phone call opened the path, and his obedience led him enter the yin realm. Malay's behavior fits the classic Guan phenomenon. Spirits who died tragically while waiting for something. Ghosts who died with unfinished tasks often can appear beautiful or normal initially, but they usually show no emotional warmth, speak flatly or slowly, and will avoid unnecessary movements until triggered. Her unnatural beauty is important. In Chinese and Thai folklore, beautiful ghosts can be considered more dangerous because they still cling to memories of their human identity. But in This situation, I do not think that Malai was vengeful, since she warned Artit not to speak with anyone else on his way out. What about the old man with the boy who were both faceless? The faceless spirit is the classic no family for burial ghost, Guan. In Chinese belief, ghosts with no descendants or burial rites become wandering ghosts. Faceless ghosts represent those who died without identity or have no face in the human world anymore. This is why the old man with the child and the ghost lining the road, a lot of them had blank faces. They may not be malicious. Most likely, they were just lost. They see a living person driving through their territory and confuse him with someone who can help them. So why was Artit able to see everything so clearly? I think this is due to the fact that he was most likely already in a heavy state. Notice how he skipped lunch, was dehydrated, exhausted, stressed, and just running on energy drinks. All of these are classic conditions that weaken the yang energy, yang high around the body. Weak yang energy makes it much easier for spirits to appear clearly. This is why delivery workers, drivers, night shift staff, and security guards have so many ghost encounters. Their yang energy is constantly depleted. Artit walked right into the perfect storm. Low yang energy plus the yin land plus the invitation plus the banyan trees. This equals a full spirit encounter. What about Malai? What was her motive? I think that she was a ghost stuck in the loop of regret. This is the heart of it. In Chinese folklore, dying with regrets creates a powerful spiritual loop. Malai died waiting for help. She died waiting for a delivery. She died waiting for someone to come. Her spirit repeats that moment over and over. When she finally received her package, her lingering regret eased, which is why she could give Artit the warning to escape. She's most likely a tragic ghost, not a vengeful one. And what about the whole village? Why do they look so real to Artit? This is what we call a reconstructed memory realm. Yanwan Chinese culture teaches that ghosts can project their past environment to the living if the living person's yang energy is weak enough. Ghost villages, ghost trains, ghost hospitals. These appear when the living accidentally step into a spiritual echo. I don't think Artit was hallucinating. He entered their world. Artit didn't deliver a package to a real village. He delivered a package to the dead. He entered a ghost domain, guided by a spirit with unfinished regret, surrounded by faceless, lonely ghosts. He wasn't attacked. He wasn't cursed. He was simply seen by those who are normally unseen. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you all for making it all the way to the end. Until we speak again next week.